welcome back to my channel. My name's Joanne. I'm a mum of 3 children and I home educate those 3 children here in the UK. So today I am coming to you next to this big stack of folders here to show you how I keep records for my homeschool. And this is actually part 2 in a 3-part series of how to deregister your child from school, how to record keep, which is this video, and then how to turn those records into reports for your local authority. So I've home educated for 5 years. In my opinion, that a successful report is going to begin with some organised record keeping at home. And I think that's the case no matter your home education style. I appreciate that for some people, they may be doing a full curriculum at home. So they may just go to the curriculum website, like The Good and the Beautiful, for example, print off the curriculum for all the different subjects. And that will make it maybe a little bit easier for them at the end of the year to then just pull samples out from each subject and present those to the local authority. Now, I know that most people don't do that, at least not for every subject. And some parents may be completely child-led, that their children are directing their own education. But I think that this sort of system can work for either style. And it's key in showing the local authority that you are providing an efficient full-time education at home for your child. So the way I begin is, because we do use curriculum for certain subjects, is I start there. And so inside my son's folder, you can see that I've just popped in a few divider tabs. And that just helps me to divide up the work in a way that makes sense to me. So when you print it off, it comes in a certain order, but I wanted certain things at the front. So for example, we've got these spelling words that my son was practicing. He's actually mastered these now, but that was handy for the first few lessons. And then we've also got this reference sheet at the beginning, which has sort of all the grammar concepts explained and examples provided. Then my son did 8 lessons, from the Good and the Beautiful's grammar prep unit to begin the year, because this was like his first time going to formal grammar. And so I printed that off and put it right at the beginning. And then we go straight into the course, and I've put the first tab, which just says language arts on it, right in the middle of his current lesson, so that when we go to do a lesson, I know where we are straight away. Now, the Good and the Beautiful, if I hold it up this way, you can see the tabs a bit better, actually. They include in their language arts courses a bit of geography and art. And so I put tabs for each of those things, and I just put any geography work under the geography tab, obviously, and the artwork under the artwork tab. And then I skipped a couple of tabs here. I haven't labelled this one yet, but it's assign reading. And it also has a reading log where I put down everything we've been reading together as a family. So I took this reading log off of Twinkle, and I think it was editable because I've put just date started at the top, book title, who's reading, because sometimes my son's reading it himself, sometimes I'm reading it aloud to him, or sometimes we put in books on audiobook. I feel like they all count. And so I put all of them down there, and then I put a little box just to say when we've finished a book. And then behind that reading record, I do the same thing for history, by the way, and I'll show you that in the other folder that I have here. But behind that, I have his level 6 reader, which comes with the Good and the Beautiful. Obviously, the Good and the Beautiful, you can order hard copies of everything, which I don't do because we're not in America, so the postage is going to be quite extortionate, I think. But it comes free online, and so I print things off. You may not have curriculum that's like that, right? You might have a hard copy of curriculum if you're using it, or workbooks or something. In that case, I would put it into a magazine like holder. I haven't got one here, I'm afraid, but that is what I would do, if you know what I mean, like one of those sort of magazine organisers. I would put it into something like that and still have a folder for any written work to go in. What's the final tab I've got here? The final tab I've got here actually is written work, and so I've just printed off some lined paper again from Twinkle, actually, and my son uses that to write on, and then any written work, once it's complete, goes under that tab in the folder, and then that's really easy to pull from at report time. As mentioned, I've got a history log as well there, and that's in another folder. And on the history log, I don't just keep a log of books, but I also keep a log of documentaries. The way we provide written records of our history, because our history learning comes through a lot of reading books and some watching documentaries or going on field trips, is that I've taken the dictations that are meant in for spelling in the Good and the Beautiful's language arts, and I've actually replaced them now with history dictations. I was going to replace the spelling because my son is a very strong speller. I was going to replace them with vocabulary from Classical Roots, but when I bought the curriculum, I realised that I was kind of doubling up on vocabulary, because we do a bit of vocabulary work in the Good and the Beautiful anyway, and the vocabulary work that came from Classical Roots was quite similar in nature, really. And I didn't feel like it was necessary for my son. I felt like the history dictations would be better, because then we've, like I say, we've got the proof that we're doing history, as well as the it's not just spelling practice that you're getting through dictation, right? It's like punctuation practice putting capital letters in right places, all that sort of thing. And so I wanted to continue with that. So I also do the same sort of thing with maths. And I have my son's maths here, my eldest son. And I've only got 2 tabs in this one, because this curriculum just comes with the simple maths lessons and then the mental arithmetic stuff at the back. So sometimes, and in the past we've done this quite a bit actually, we do maths in a more relaxed style. So I take from this curriculum, but my son doesn't sit there at the table and fill in the sort of worksheets that come with it. Sometimes what I do instead is things like scavenger hunts, which you would have seen in our Week in a Life video. And if I do that, then I still have a little record of what I'm doing, because each of the clues in the hunt, are written on like rectangular pieces of paper. And so I just take those pieces of paper at the end and stick them in to an exercise book. Now, in the past, I didn't use the Good and the Beautiful at all for maths. My son didn't get on with it at one point. And so we used Schofield and Sims arithmetic series and their Key Stage 2 topic books. So when I did that, what I would do is I would either take the questions from the mental arithmetic series and put them into scavenger hunts, like I just said, or sometimes we would just do a little bit of mental arithmetic each day, like read aloud time, and I would write the answer that my son gave to me in, mark it like a tick or a cross, and then when it came to report time, if they wanted samples of what we were doing for maths, then I could very easily photocopy it, provide it, and say, like, it's in my handwriting, but these are the answers my son gave. There are loads of like educational games out there that you can find if your children prefer a more gamey style of maths. Obviously, there's loads of learning happening through real life activities like baking, using money. If you're more that way inclined, I would still keep a folder and make a record. So you wouldn't be able to plan what your child is about to learn, but you can keep a record of what they've learned, log it in your folder, and then take pictures as proof of that. Take pictures of the resources you're using, your child using those resources if you feel like that would be beneficial to send to your local authority. Each local authority is so different, it's hard to tell. Like I hear a lot of people say not to send samples, and we'll get into that in the next video. That wouldn't be accepted where I live, unfortunately. But if that is acceptable where you live, then don't send the pictures of what your child's doing, but at least have a log of what they're doing so that you can demonstrate the learning opportunities you provided for your children. Folder I've got, which you've already picked inside for the history, but I have haven't actually labelled this bit. This is the handwriting that we use from The Good and the Beautiful. Again, just put it in the middle of the current lesson. Science. So I print out the current science unit. I'm actually going to move this from my eldest son's folder. This is something that my eldest son and my middle son do together. So I'm going to eventually remove that and just leave in there the bits of work he's done relating to the science unit and give the science unit its own folder. So that if in the future I want to revisit weather and water with my daughter, maybe when she's older, then I've got the whole folder there ready to go. I keep a log of his Latin by printing off tests he's done on the Cambridge website. So that's handy that they have that because it marks it itself as well. Again, keep any logic puzzles in the back here. I would include Sudokus in that too. And then I have some planning pages, and I put them in the back of my oldest son's folder because he's the one that I've got in mind most when I'm planning at the moment, because his workload is the heaviest. But I've just printed off of Twinkle calendar for year 2025, and I'll do the same for 2026. And then I highlight in yellow any weeks we've completed, not weeks we're due to complete, because sometimes I change things at the last minute, but weeks we've actually completed I highlight. And I've circled the days within them that we've done more structured work on. Sometimes I have, like you would have seen in my week in the life video, weeks that are more relaxed, but that I consider to count towards school because we've done so many things that week that were educational. For that, I count if we've done for us, for our home. I count if we've done enough maths and English, and if we have done enough maths and English, and I will highlight that as a full week. For my younger children, I do much the same. I did have it where I'd colour coordinated. So my eldest son was with the blue folders, my daughter was with the red folder, and my middle son was going to be green folders, but I ran out of green folders, and so he's got a red folder now as well. Messed up my system a little bit, but I've printed off, just to cover up his name, his handwriting there. He hasn't got any tabs in that because the handwriting is quite straightforward. He's got this cheat sheet sort of in there, back to front, so that if he ever needs it, I can just put it where he is and he can copy. Just helps him with remembering letter formation. And then in this folder, what have we got? We've got his maths and his art study. He's been doing doodle maths lately. So if your child is using an app or something like that, most of them, you can go to a parent dashboard and you can print off a sheet that shows your children's progress. So that seems to be, at least for my local authority, what they want you to demonstrate when you are reporting on your child is progress, which is why I think it's important to print things off periodically for your children. Even my daughter, I don't ask her to do any set amount of work, but she will, as she goes through her Reading Eggs program, I print off every time she gets a certificate and I pop it in here, because then I have a record of her progress. So the final bit of record keeping I do is our memory work folder. Sometimes I call this symposium time, sometimes bedtime reading. But I just have a list of the books that I am reading aloud to my children each night. And as I update this list, like as books change, I just put them behind each other in this front part of the folder. That way I have a list automatically of the books we've read, just in case I've missed any off of our reading log. That sometimes happens. And then I have inside just hadith memorization. Now I don't put on my report about any sort of Islamic studies or anything we do that way, just because I figure that even if my children were at school, that's something that we would do as a family anyway. So I keep that as like a family thing rather than a school thing. But it's still in my memory work folder. So I have the hadith that we're memorizing there for my own sake. But then poems that we're memorizing, I keep a record of here. I should really keep a log of these as well, but I don't. I print them off, put them in my folder so that we can look at them while we're memorising them. And then once they're memorised, I just put another poem in front. So at the end of the year, when I'm going to report on what my card's done, it's very easy for me to look back at all the poems we've done. And then the same with mat work, just as we said, like my children are very confident with knowing the 5 oceans. So then the next page, we're just on to Europe, and then as they've mastered other bits of the world map, I'm just going to put them onto this page. So this will be sort of things mastered, things we're currently looking at, things we are going to work on in the future. So that's it for this video, but catch you in my next video where I'll talk about turning these records into reports and how to do that. Until then, happy homeschooling. Bye.